Good afternoon, everyone. We're in the committee of the whole meeting for Tuesday, November 14th. Welcome, Squalum, Peace, Development, Squamish, Oil Mill. Welcome to the traditional territory of the Squamish Station. There is an agenda in front of the committee. Looking for a motion to adopt the agenda. Moved by Councillor Kent, seconded by Councillor Elliott. All those in favor?
Were you going to amend it to add an item?
Well, it's already closed. There's already a closed item.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We'll amend the closed agenda. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion carries. First up, we have accessibility icon, and we did add on a little bit of a conversation about line waving and icons, just so we can know what we're talking about as well. But predominantly on the agenda is possibility of a new accessibility icon. I'll pass it over to Mr. Wickham.
Thank you, Mayor Huntsman. My name is Chris Wickham. I'm the Director of Engineering. And we're here today to talk about our current and proposed future accessibility icon. And I will just turn it over to Paulo Arriaga, who approached staff about this initiative, and would like to give some background.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and giving me this opportunity to at least lend in your ears. I'll start off. Again, my name is Paulo Arriaga. I'm a father of a 4-year-old girl with a disability. So in the last 4.5 years, it's quite an adventure with her and what she's experienced and what she's let us experience. So one of these things that I've come across in living as a father with a child with disability is little things like this, little changes that can, one day maybe change the world, or at least pockets at a time. So I'll start with the forward movement, again promoting physical and social inclusion for people of all abilities. And at the end of the day, it's basically changing the logo of the disability that says accessible for people with disabilities to something new. And I'll start with a little bit of history so everybody knows we're on the same page and where it came from. So in 1968, the International Commission on Technology and Accessibility held a design contest and came up with this logo. Interestingly, the winning design didn't have a head. They added one a year later. So you can almost tell that it's like an afterthought putting that head in there. 10 years after this head was added, it was endorsed by the UN and the International Organization for Standardization, the iOS, sorry. The sign has become internationally accepted as the means of indicating places that are barrier-free. So when we think about it, what is lacking in the current logo? The current sign depicts a stationary person with emphasis on the wheelchair. Portrayed in this way, the focus is put on the wheelchair and the disability before the person. So a little bit of history as to where this movement came from. In 2013, a gentleman named Brian Glennie and a lady named Sarah Henderson, looking to create a more up-to-date accessible icon, developed the dynamic symbol of access and co-founded the Accessible Icon Project. This project isn't the first effort of changing the language and imagery surrounding people with disabilities, but it started in Boston, and they started putting reflective stickers like this on top of signs, so just to kind of prove a point, to send a message and start the conversation. Again, a little bit of history. The term handicap was once the common way of referring to a person with a disability. Our society has come a long way since then. The word disabled is more socially accepted these days because there are a lot more disabilities that can fit into this category than in handicap. The word handicapped has a tendency to refer to a physical disability, but if one imagines a disabled person, one can't pinpoint the most likely disability they have. Thus, it puts people into a larger category and makes them feel more accepted. Changing the accessible icon, like changing the language we use to refer to people with disability, frames the way our society views disabilities. And we go to the forward movement. In 2016, Dylan, I don't know how to say his last name, Itzkowitz, was temporarily disabled after a car accident. During this time, he learned about the Accessible Icon Project in the States, He was motivated by it to bring it to Canada, specifically to Toronto or Ontario, as a means of educating his circle, his society, on the importance of bringing down barriers to be inclusive for everyone. So why this symbol? Disabilities come in different forms, in many different forms, making it difficult to find a symbol that speaks to everyone's personal needs. Ideally, it'd be great to create a more representative symbol. But the International Symbol of Access serves a purpose for indicating a barrier-free access. A radical change would create a long period of confusion. So it has to remain blue and the wheelchair, at least the same, something that is similar to the old one. The new symbol isn't perfect, but it is an improvement to the old, while maintaining its identifiable characteristics. So the dynamic symbol is an improvement to the old in major ways. The person in the new image is more prominent than the one in the old image, and the new image shows movement, a symbolic action that emphasizes differing abilities, and this reframes the way society views and interacts with people with disability. So the symbol is also meant to spark conversation that educate about the importance of removing barriers, both physical and cultural, to make Squamish more accessible and inclusive for everyone. That is the idea. So in Toronto and Ontario, they've had events, they've had reveals, and community come together, and they basically make this a big project and recognizing the importance of changing minds and having this conversation. And I saw it, the first time I saw it, made me, it says, yes, exactly, my daughter is more than just, a person with a handicap. She's going places, she does amazing things. And so this, without you knowing somebody with a disability, makes you think that. A little bit of updates from Ontario. This is what they've got going so far. So they've got some sort of movement there, and invited by the minister to present the campaign. And you can read there. I'm not going to go over too much, but they're moving forward in changing, at least on Ontario, and they would love to have every province. They do have hurdles that they have to overcome, but a lot of people, I think in New York, that's one place that it's now everywhere in New York. And I mean, if you look at your iPhones, if you have iPhones, you can see even the icon there for disability is that icon. So it's just forward thinking, and all in the name of Maya, for me. And that's my presentation. I'm hoping that Squamish is willing to adopt this change, and just to look forward. It is a forward movement, and have those conversations and maybe adopt it or grandfather it into the system.
So, I mean, you had me at hello. Maybe a question, would we be able to implement this change without a provincial sort of standard? Could we do that independent of a provincial standard?
No, we can't. However, this provincial standard already exists. It is already recognized by SPARC BC, the Social Planning and Research Council of BC. So we can implement this today, and it will be enforceable. Our bylaw folks have double-checked that.
Councillor Connor.
Yeah, I think it's great, really good.
Councillor Strong.
As we replace our symbols, can we move to the symbol? Can we just start doing that immediately?
Yes. Yeah, we would, on municipal lands and municipal buildings, we have to repaint these fairly often anyway, so we buy a new stencil, and just it'll be zero cost beyond the stencil. For signs, we don't replace quite as often, but we can put a decal over the signs, so we can phase that in over the next year or so, and have all new signs will be. And I would say a lot of the accessible parking spaces around town are actually on private land and the malls and that sort of thing. So I think part of this would be also just a public outreach and awareness, and hopefully other landowners would be on board as well.
Councillor Corrigan.
So would we get, when we order the decals, or we'll get decals made, we'll get a whole bunch so that we can get them on the private property as well? get extra?
I guess potentially we could supply some. We can't obviously go onto private property and affix them anywhere, but
No,
we might be able
you
to
say,
supply
put this up.
bulk discount, kind of.
Yeah.
I can look into that.
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, it's something that you really just want to change
Hmm.
and not just do it whenever we replace a sign or add a new sign. I think you want to make the wholesale change. I can't imagine besides this, you know, it's not going to be a huge amount, but maybe bring forward a bit of a budget item to, if it needs that, to council, so we make sure. But I don't see it having sort of two systems out there. I think we just need to get everyone on board, get the malls, whoever else has these on board, and then get it done. Doug and then Peter.
Thank you. And so with private property, I understand with malls and so forth, it's really their step. But if we're developing new property or regulating development of new property, new townhouse projects, for example, can we mandate that?
Maybe. We could
Because
maybe
we tell them we want so many handicap spaces and so
Yeah.
forth, disabled spaces. So we, and I don't know if that would take a bylaw change or it's just.
It might be something, I can look into whether we'd have to change the subdivision development control bylaw, for example.
I don't
No,
need the
that's
answer
mostly
today.
onsite. That might be a building question. I can ask the question.
I think whatever piece of our legislation we need to change to make sure that that's communicated properly is what we need.
Absolutely.
Peter?
Municipally, how many spaces are we looking at so far that have handicap?
That's an excellent question. I knew that back when we were looking into this. The number is not in my brain anymore.
Good
It's,
answer.
yeah, it's not that many. It's mostly in the downtown area here.
Yeah, I'm in favor for sure.
Karen, Doug, Susan.
I was gonna put forward a motion, so if there's other
So was I.
questions.
So
And
moved
so
by
also-
Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Reyes.
So the motion is that we accept the accessibility icon and then staff bring back a report to budget if necessary to implement it across municipal property and promote it in the community.
Did you get all that here?
Do you really think it's gonna take a
I
budget?
have,
If
I don't know.
necessary were the words in my motion. If
Councillor
necessary.
Thanks. No, I was gonna do the same, so I fully accept this. It seems such an odd thing, that such a basic, you know, like symbol that represents lack of mobility, moving to mobility would be an issue at all. So I guess that's why we have these discussions, but it does seem odd that it would take a budget item.
no, I think it's just to understand if it does, if we're replacing, 20 signs out there, it might be $5,000 or whatever. So it's just a duck all, just so we understand if there's a budget.
We feel that we can absorb it in the
Okay,
existing
excellent.
budget.
Okay.
Fantastic. Any more questions or comments?
There's a budget request for signage.
But that's an annual budget.
They're gonna come back and
Yeah,
Okay,
excellent.
we'll come back.
Any more comments on that particular item? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thanks for
Thank you.
bringing that
Thank you
forward.
for bringing it
Thank
forward.
you, thank you.
Thank you very much for bringing that, and your daughter looks delightful. She's going to change the world. I can
Thank
see
you.
that.
It's already started.
And really appreciate when people bring these types of things forward because it's really helpful for us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome job. I thought we'd maybe extend the conversation a little bit into a conversation about some other sort of road painting, lining, icon issues. I know one that I bring up often is maximizing the space in those yellow triangles for motorcycle parking when there's a big enough space, and actually putting a motorcycle icon in there, because especially in the summer, you go downtown, you'll see 10 stalls taken up with motorcycles where we could easily find some more innovative places to put motorcycles and help with some of our parking issues. So obviously if a little yellow triangle is too small, we can't do it, but there's some big ones where you could easily put a motorcycle but still have all the sight lines coming in and out of driveways or whatever it is. So I know that's one. Any issues with that, council? Any other, what, I don't see any hands until I see a hand, I'm gonna keep bringing up my issues. I noticed our first green painting for the bike lanes up near Brackendale at that intersection, I guess it's probably about 2 years old now. It seems to have not worn very well. Seems to be, I think we anticipated getting about 8 years out of it. It seems pretty crackly, and I'm just wondering if, was that the application of the paint, or was it on an old road surface, or was it snow clearing, or what's, are we not getting the life out of that type of paint that we thought we would?
You know, from sort of having some experience, that I think the asphalt is cracked, not the paint. So it's an issue with the material, not with the paint. You know. That paint seems to be holding up fairly well. In other instances, it's at government and at Garibaldi. There's greater wear there. Quite sure what is going on.
It does look like it's where it's cracked is where you're seeing the paint erode, so I was questioning whether it was paint or the asphalt. Thanks. Ted, Mr.
Yeah, since you got your favorite one out, we could be doing a better job on Be Bright at Night. And I know I whined and complained, and we got some stickers put on the vehicles that are this big. But, you know, I drive around at nighttime and I don't see the community learning very well Be Bright at Night. So I don't know, if we're buying stickers and looking at motorcycle parking, let's get some stickers this big on the backs of the vehicles. Fluorescent Be Bright at Night, so people can read them.
How much do we do with Be Bright at Night with the schools? Because really, I mean, Ted's right, you drive around at night and people are literally walking their dogs in complete black rain clothes, and it gets really dangerous. Are we working, and I don't see Christine in the room, but maybe we can integrate the program a little bit more with the school districts, because that's a good place to start. Any other thoughts on Be Bright at Night? Maybe, is Christina here? Yeah, maybe just get her to come in and let.
But I think mostly it's an ICBC issue.
I know, but I think I heard from Councillor Pryor, and I certainly support it, is that we help. Councillor.
Thanks. We're walking in the middle of the roads because we don't have sidewalks, so yes, it's an issue. Can we also get the bike decals? The bike decals are all, especially, I know we do it normally in the summer, but for some reason, all the bike decals all the way across Government Road, headed downtown, haven't been renewed, weren't renewed this summer, but you can't see them at all anymore. They weren't replaced with the center point across Victoria, but the Government Road ones are really weak.
Do we have a yearly program for that, or, and is it more than just paint? Is it that sort of heavier duty of paint?
I believe it's just paint in most places. And yeah, it's part of our annual line painting budget to go around and find the bits that need the paint the most. And so yeah, I'm not I'm not sure why we're seeing that.
Yeah, if the road gets dug up, I have to make sure to replace the bike decals.
Any other sort of line painting, icon issues that you might want to talk through? Okay.
Any comments on the new bike decals, the fully suspended bike decals
With
in
the fish on
Cleveland
the
as,
seat.
as the new
I'd like a fish on the seat, if that's possible.
A fish riding the bicycle?
Yeah, those
Totally
are,
acceptable.
Yeah.
they had all the fish riding bicycles.
And that goes to the saying, a woman without a man is like a fish without a bicycle. Never.
got it.
That's a saying.
It is.
Christina, we were having a conversation about the Be Bright at Night and how we can infiltrate the communication in the community a bit more. Yeah, please.
Sorry, you were having a
So-
conversation about Be Bright at Night.
We understand that Be Bright, it's an ICBC initiative. It's definitely a predicament here in town. We talked, there was a question about, do we communicate with schools in terms of really trying to make sure the kids are getting that message, and how do we, besides just our normal social media, could we get that message out there more?
Sure. So about 5 years ago, it was actually my first winter here, so it would have been the winter of 2012. The Squamish Trail Society came to the district with the idea and the concept around Be Bright at Night. That year, we put quite a number of resources into it. With the support of Squamish Trail Society, we formed a community committee to try to extend the reach and to try to build some impetus and some energy around the campaign. ICBC came to the table with a lot of resources in terms of some posters that they used in their pedestrian campaigns. As well, the RCMP were at the table, and we had some representatives from the high school and some other community groups. I don't recall all of them off the top of my head. As the years went on, the community committee didn't have a lot of, I guess, time or resources to be able to keep the project going, and so it has really fallen to the district, and with the support of ICBC through the reflectors, and then the help of the community policing office, who has helped with some volunteer support on getting those reflectors out, getting them in the hands of some of the community groups, seniors fair, those kinds of things. So to be honest, it hasn't, from the district's perspective, our role has really been in the communications of it. So we have developed little videos and social media posters and postcards and communication pieces, and we have used our channels to get the word out. But I think the original intention from the Squamish Trail Society was that there would be a more of a community sort of involvement and sort of grassroots involvement, so that we could really extend the reach. It hasn't really materialized beyond what each individual organization has kept going.
Is the Squamish Trail Society still involved?
No, not to the same degree, no. We still give them a reference in our communications at the beginning, sort of recognizing where the idea of the campaign came from originally. But from a resourcing perspective, they have left it to the other groups.
And the other groups are all still involved?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, it really, at the end of the day, it has been ICBC coming to the table with the reflectors, the district providing the communications, and the community policing office being able to demonstrate and lend some volunteer support to get those, to get that message out, and to get to some community events like the Seniors Fair, and they have done some traffic monitoring, traffic events, awareness type things as well.
Any other questions, Councillor Carter? Do you have any?
Well, I mean, it sounds like everybody's leaving it to everybody else. It is a concern, and unless someone wants to put their head to a solution, I suggest bigger bumper stickers for a start. But I don't see it in my life. I don't see it being advertised. And, it's not a big thing, but we get stickers for everything.
Our
district vehicles all have bumper stickers on them. Yeah, they did have to compete with a number of other messages the vehicles had to have, so they didn't end up being very large. But we do our best around the fallback hours over the last couple of weeks to extend that reach.
The digital sign we have when there's construction work, could we put that up in the community so it'd be bright at night along the highway or something like that?
Do we have one of those?
We typically rent them, I believe, for the capital projects.
I thought we had
That
our
would
own.
have to require
But it's,
a budget.
Susan.
I was just thinking about kids along Government Road, as I do all the time, because thinking of all those kids, not only is it safe for school, Is there any way, we're in the line painting conversation, be bright at night, can we double paint? I know we don't really ever get to the conversation of separating a bike lane across that one route. So what about if we gave the kids a little bit more space by double painting the line? Even if we don't have billiards or anything else up, or if that's too much trouble, can we give the kids a little bit more car space?
Similar to the treatment on Depot Road.
Yeah. Double paint the line.
Where there's space, I think that's worthwhile pursuing it. So I don't know if you've been on Depot, but the new painting has about a foot, at least of a double line.
Yeah.
So maybe where we have those opportunities, we do
Certainly.
that.
Especially because there's so much kids infrastructure, and I also think of adult entertainment, like all the people traveling back and forth from different breweries and
No big
all
legs.
that in the middle of town now. That it might be good to have some safety.
No adult
convenience.
entertainment.
Beer.
Thank you for defining.
Okay, anything else? Thank you very much. Good job. Moving on, we have a conversation about the Canadian Mountain Network proposal. Mr. Buxton?
Oh, thank you, Mayor and Council. Just a brief report here with respect to establishing interest in principle or a letter of support for the Canadian Mountain Network, which is a proposed partnership group that will be made up of mountain communities, universities, colleges, research institutes, companies and non-profits. Essentially to choose, select and support practical research and training. Essentially it's a community of common interest, so those matters should be around things that we're interested in as that group. The modes of research that they outline are either academic, that's the typical sort of research that you see, partnerships, which would be something that's more practical in terms of partnerships between academia and others, and then community-led research, so that's something that communities themselves would prompt research in. The theme areas are essentially climate change, heritage and environment, and economic development. And I say there was a survey that went around to the participant or proposed participant municipalities, and they cited the 10 areas of interest that came out initially. That's not a definitive list and that's not the list, but that's a list of potential research and training opportunities, whether it's building the tourism economy or through protecting headwaters to managing recreational conflicts. So this community of common interest is the subject of a grant application to the Federal Network Centres of Excellence. That supports large-scale and multidisciplinary research networks. The network's seeking $2.5 million a year for 5 years. That's not we're not making any financial commitment at this point in time. The letter of support essentially would be in support of that grant application to the Network Centres of Excellence application. So we're essentially being asked to provide support in principle for that. At this point in time, there's no financial commitment being made to support that grant application. If it's successful and the network is created, then in its first year of operations, they're looking at raising about $75,000 in membership fees based on a minimum of about 10 founding community members at present. I can't tell you how that 75,000 would be divided up, whether it's by 10 or whether it's on a per capita basis or some other method of allocation. But if we were to proceed, there would be a financial commitment, but that would be the subject of a future council decision. So we're not making any particular commitment. At this point in time, the letter that's attached to at the very end of the attachment is the sort of support that they're looking for us to provide. So the recommendation is that we support that and the CAO could execute that letter or something very close there too.
Thank you. Any questions, Councillor?
It wasn't a question, it was more of a comment. I looked at that. So I wondered what the advantage was, or what the difference was between a mountain community and a non-mountain community. And I looked at the 10 points of interest, and the only one I could see there was the hazards that we might have in common with other mountain communities, such as avalanche and debris flow and things like that you wouldn't necessarily find in a community in the interior plateau, for example. But the other things, I mean, tourism, economic development, and so forth, I think are things we have in common. And so we already belong to local government organizations, UBCM, etc. And so I was wondering what the real advantage was. There is a bit of a downside, which is a relatively small financial contribution and possibly staff time, but I was just kind of, to be frank, didn't see the real advantage of that compared to some of the other things that we're already involved in.
It's obviously, I had that same question as I read the report. I think, for me, where I think there may be some value, especially as we become more of a tourism destination, I think, ironically, I think a lot of our tourism growth is going to happen on the water side of things, not the mountain side of things, but the pressures of having the resort influence on a community, I think, is where affordable housing, labor, related issues for service and commercial and retail, those types of things I think are where there might be more of a shared learning with municipalities that are under that. And I think maybe the word mountain isn't maybe the right, I know they're using fixed terminology because I think it's more a resort community, but maybe I'm getting that wrong, but those are where I thought there might be some real targeted research that is relevant to those communities that are feeling that kind of pressure.
Yes, some of the other communities that I've heard discussed are my old watering hole in Canmore, Revelstoke, Golden, Nelson. We probably have more in common with those communities than we do with Burnaby and Langley in many respects on some of these. So that sort of community of common interest, I think, is, I mean, we're much smaller communities. In my experience, these can have some fairly good value out of them, particularly if the research topics are community driven.
Emergency planning, I mean, there's a few transportation issues when you have one way in and one way out, which a lot of these mountain towns have.
And they're smaller communities that tend to be, again, we have the same sorts of issues and concerns, whereas a large metro area, they have different financial resources to throw at issues they have. So,
That's right.
I think what I like about the idea of a network is that we don't have to solve all the problems, that we would be working with a network of communities that are facing similar challenges. And so that we don't have to do all the research, and we don't have to be the ones that we can copy, borrow, because there's other mountain communities that have participated in research or try new things. And so I think there's always an advantage to be part of a network. I think I think we are starting to feel the strain of what locals feel Squamish is about and how it should be used, and visitors. So we're getting way more complaints about tourists leaving garbage, and tourists not respecting how to use our trails, and tourists not being in or using our town properly. And I think that that kind of research is important to figure out how we put in place sustainable tourism over the long term, and that our community understands how to interact with tourists. So, if we decide, mostly now we have this big summer season and quieter fall, spring, but other mountain communities are trying to make their communities year-round tourist destinations, and that puts a lot of pressure on the locals to do that and sustain that. So I think these areas of research are important. And at this point, I don't really see any harm in moving forward. And I suspect that this will tighten up in terms of its scope and focus as it gets closer to, if it gets funded as a center of excellence.
Councillor?
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, there is potential upside and not much downside. I wasn't actually thinking of Burnaby and Langley. I was thinking more of 100 Mile or Soyos or something like that, which are smaller communities which are increasingly relying on tourism. And what's different about us because we have mountains versus them that have other tourist activities. So, but I'm fine with it. I just want to make that
And at
point.
this point, there's no financial commitment
There is no financial commitment at this point.
Councillor Strong.
Yeah, just looking at what the Mountain Network does, it's a consortium of researchers and involved in academia, so it's not really whether it provides resources for academia research. It's not whether you're really a mountain town, and really all of the stuff they put money into seems to be fairly wide open for all communities and of interest to all communities. Like I was just looking at, there's water research on British Columbia, addressing British Columbia's biggest water challenges in changing climate. There's colonialism and thinking about Aboriginal mental health. So it seems to cover a pretty wide spectrum of really interesting subjects that should be supported. So I'm fully in support of this, even if it's a financial commitment.
We'll get the financial
Eventually.
big moves this right now, so. So right at this point, you're looking for that we provide a letter of support to the Canadian Mountain Rescues Consortium for the CEO to execute, moved by Councillor Chappelle, seconded by Councillor Kent. I'll call the question, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on, we have the seniors housing rezoning and development permit introduction. There you go.
Don't hold your breath.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Jessie Fletcher, planner with the Community Planning and Infrastructure Department. Today I'm introducing the Squamish Senior Citizens Home Society Redevelopment Project. Our purpose today is to introduce 2 development applications to Council for information. As requested by Council at October's Community Development Standing Committee meetings, staff will present a brief history of the 2 sites in question. Staff note that a CAC is still under negotiation and therefore will not be presented today. The project includes 2 separate applications, a rezoning and a development permit, both of which will be introduced today. Currently, the Squamish Senior Citizens Home Society operates 2 non-market housing complexes comprising 70 units, better known as the Cedars in the Manor, which are located at the corner of Pemberton and 3rd. That is the red parcel highlighted above. The site is under a land use contract. Its OCP designation is downtown, and it is captured in Development Permit Area 7. The applicant, Polygon Development, has applied to rezone the site to a comprehensive development zone. The other site under consideration today is the proposed new site for senior citizen housing at 38275 3rd Avenue, located north of the Shannon Falls Retirement Residences, just south of Bailey Street, across from the Chieftain Shopping Center. That is the parcel highlighted in yellow above. The site is currently vacant, is zoned CD2. Its OCP designation is downtown, and it is subject to DPA 7. The Squamish Senior Citizens Home Society has applied for a development permit to construct 232 units of adaptable non-market seniors housing on site. There is a housing agreement registered on title. Staff note that staff have proposed increasing the density of the CD2 zone for non-market housing to accommodate the proposed development. That is part of the 2017 zoning bylaw update, which has received first and second reading and will go to public hearing on December 5th. Both the rezoning site and the DP site were acquired by the district in 1964 as part of a larger land acquisition from the province. The district acquired 56 acres, more commonly known as Block R, from Pacific Great Eastern Railway for $60,000. That is the parcel shown above with the red outline. It's approximate. A portion of the land was gifted for seniors housing in 1968 to the Squamish Senior Citizens Housing Society. The Cedars was built in 1972 and offers 20 units. Block R was further subdivided in 1975 and gifted again to the Squamish Senior Citizens Housing Society to accommodate the Manors, which offers an additional 50 units of seniors housing. During this subdivision, a land use contract was put on site, which stipulated that all construction must be completed by 1977. The land use contract is still in place and prevents the development of anything new on site until it is discharged, either by a district bylaw or in 2024, when all land use contracts in the province will be discharged. In 2002, the district donated an additional 3.6 acres to the Squamish Seniors Citizens Housing Society. This is the parcel located at 38275 3rd Avenue, referenced as the DB site in this, and is shown in blue above. And it included the parcel to the south where Shannon Falls Retirement Center is located. This occurred by subdivision and was contingent on a housing agreement that prevented subdivision of the site and required that the site provide non-market seniors housing. The housing agreement was approved by bylaw on October 1st, 2002. The subdivision was completed soon after. In 2007, the DP site was further subdivided. The southern portion of the site was sold for the development of the Shannon Falls Retirement Center, which was allowable by the housing agreement, as multiple units in the Shannon Falls were for special housing units. A new housing agreement was drafted to secure those 20 units. Polygon in this Squamish Senior Citizens Housing Society presented the land swap relationship to the Community Development Standing Committee meeting on December 6th, 2016. The application was received on September 25th, 2017, and during the October 3rd Community Development Standing Committee meeting, Council requested more information on the history of the two sites. The district is in receipt of 2 land development applications, one rezoning for market housing and one development permit for a new seniors residence. Polygon and the Senior Society have entered into an agreement whereby Polygon will buy the property at 38201 3rd Avenue for fair market value, where the current seniors residence is located, and will facilitate the application and construction of a new seniors residence at 38275 3rd Avenue. Both applications have been submitted to the district. So the first land development application is for a proposed 6 stories, an FAR of 1.66. That's the rezoning site at 38201 3rd Avenue. The first story contains 1,100 square meters of commercial space fronting 3rd Avenue, Pemberton Avenue, and Eaglewind Boulevard. The remaining approximate 16,000 square meters of residential space would provide approximately 180 residential units. Currently, the site has a land use contract. It prevents any new construction after 1977. The land use contract will expire in 2024 unless it is dissolved by bylaw prior to that. It will need to be dissolved prior to rezoning. The proposed massing shows 2 stories of parking with a public-private courtyard above the 2nd floor, accessible from a small parklet located on the southwest corner. A 5-meter building setback is proposed for all four frontages for the 1st, 2nd, and 6th levels, while a 3-meter building setback is proposed for the 3rd to 5th stories. The western portion of Pemberton appears to observe a slightly bigger setback, however more detail is still needed at this time, and access to all off-street parking is from 3rd Avenue. The second application is for a development permit. The proposed development exceeds the density of the CD2 zone, but staff have proposed an amendment to the CD2 zone to accommodate an increase in market housing on site. The applicant has proposed a 5-story apartment building. The proposal includes 232 units, all of which will be adaptable, which is contrary to what was in the staff report. The proposal is seeking a variance of 194 parking stalls. The project will provide 154 stalls, while the zoning bylaw requires 348 stalls. Both applications will follow normal application processes. Following this meeting, staff will refer these applications internally and externally. And staff note again that the agreement between Polygon and the seniors requires that the rezoning site receive third reading prior to the DP for the senior site being presented to council. So staff recommend that council receive the seniors housing rezoning and development permit information report for information and provide feedback.
Council questions, Council Card.
Seems like everybody wants to go 8 stories, how come this is only 4 and 6 stories?
That was,
First of all, is the statement everyone wants to go 8 stories correct?
Well, we're getting a lot of 6 of the, you know, we're
Do
getting
we
a
have
lot
it?
more height requests.
Can you move in and so the microphone can pick up? Thank you.
Sorry.
I just did,
Well, let me rephrase it.
you made a definitive statement that I'm not sure was definitive.
You know, when you think about height in Squamish, that's an excellent site. Both those sites are excellent for 8 stories because they're away from the oceanfront, waterfront. And as far as I understand, we're supposed to go high and low to the water. So I remember when it first came to us, I thought higher would be better. And if it's some reason, you know, number count or whatever, that was just kind of a question. Why not higher?
I think this may be a good question for the applicants. We have indicated to the applicants that this, there is a higher density potential here. But at the end of the day, the applicants make the application, and it's all about their proposal.
Good. So the applicant's not interested in going any denser.
And maybe the Housing Society, if they want to speak to it, then
Yeah.
welcome to
You
come up.
want-
Yeah,
If you'd like,
you have to have a seat at the
I
table.
have to have a seat.
Yeah, because the microphones can't pick you up
Oh,
otherwise.
right on. Yeah, thank you. 2 or 3 reasons, not 8 at this time. One is cost of construction. We can go stick framing with 6. That's the maximum we can go. And we're all about budgets with the project. Parking would be another issue if we added units, not through the number of units that we're proposing. And we're already feeling we're kind of pushing it to the max right now, even though they're seniors and don't all have cars and that kind of thing. Those are the 2 main reasons. We also feel that the project at 232 units is, if it's not at the max that it should be, it's getting close to for in terms of administration and the amount of amenity space that we have to provide for each of the residents and that kind of thing. So we settled on a 5-story building. It's 4 on top of the parking podium, and that's to accommodate, of course, the flood level. And so that would be the reason.
So, I mean, obviously you thought about it, so it just doesn't make financial sense to go any higher? That was basically the bottom line?
The financial and we don't feel we can go more units. We can't get the funding support to build more units. Yeah.
If I could explore that a bit further, then I've got Councillor Reese and Councillor Schnell. Right now, the proposal on the DP portion, leaving aside the other portion right now, is taking up the whole footprint of the property.
Yep.
At 5 stories.
Yep.
Did you consider going 6 stories on a smaller footprint, leaving some land in the future? The current proposal has 0 senior-specific land beyond this point.
Yeah.
Did you think about maximizing it on a smaller footprint and leaving some lands for the future?
We pretty well had to use up the entire space on the first floor podium for parking and so on. It would be difficult to add that, at a later time. And we provided quite a generous green space in the middle by the design feature of the building. So again, on the amount of space that we got, we feel, given that the limitations of construction costs and parking and so on, we've pretty well maxed it out at 232 units. And if you want us to take another look at redesign, we can, but I don't know that we're going to get much more support from BC Housing to add to our unit count.
I'm not suggesting adding to the
Yeah.
unit count.
Yeah, so we can ask our architect whether or not we can get 232 units, what, on 6 stories, I guess, right?
No, I'm not thinking more of a design change, Pete. I was just thinking of more floors.
Yeah. I'm responding to the mayor. What would you like me to do?
I was asking a question.
Yeah.
If you considered this, and it sounds like you didn't,
Yeah.
or you did, but you
Well,
dismissed
we
it.
did, and I think we've arrived at what all the different parties advised us would be our optimum type of construction value for the property.
Councillor Rayson and Councillor Strong.
Yeah, I was wondering about the parking variance and more or less counting on perhaps half the residents not having vehicles. Is there any history of that, for example, with the Cedars Manor, with the number of cars that are actually there?
Well, we've got 70 units and about 38, 39 cars. We're hoping a couple of things can happen. One is that if we're able to organize some share car purchase, there's a number of residents that are there that still have a car because they need to get to the doctor up in the Highlands or down to Lionsgate Hospital for something. It's an occasional use situation. As we all know, operating a car is about $5,000 to $7,000 a year. And if you're on a limited income, if we're able to have a share car situation, that will accommodate their needs on to book it and go down and do things. And they could give their car up, in other words. This is kind of what, that was our thinking. Plus, we've been looking at the little electric scooter cars. I don't know what else to call them, but single occupant electric cars for people to get around in close proximity to a place like within, say, 5 kilometers or something like that. And so we're trying to look at options to reduce the need for automobiles. Yeah.
What's the percentage of the Manor and the Cedar that of residents have cars right now?
Yeah, I was saying it's about 38 of the 70 units. There's about 38 cars right now. A little over half. A little over half. Yeah.
Councillor Chappelle?
Thanks. I'm wondering about assisted living facilities like shared dining room and other community features that are in the place.
I'm sorry. Say again.
Shared, like basically any shared facilities, like assisted living facilities. How do you address the range of seniors that you get? Are you just providing a house, or you?
Yes, our society is limited to providing accommodation at an affordable price, and we're hoping to maximize the number of subsidized units. When it all shakes down at the end and the budget comes out, we'll know whether it's 50-50 or 60-40 in our favor. But we hope to get it to 100% subsidized at some point.
But how about the facilities? Is there going to be a shared dining room, like shared features?
Yeah, we don't have any food facilities, and we're just a housing society. And but what we do have in the plan is, maybe you saw, we have a storage room for what I call our seniors food bank services. Getting into the food services and care side, or assisted living side, is a big jump for us, and it requires another set of financing for operating and so on. That it just, in British Columbia, there's our type of society, and then there's others that go into other avenues of things. So we're just a housing society.
But so as far as, this is basically, you're asking for us to take an entire chunk of our seniors' land base and make half market housing and most seniors housing, which
Well,
I totally appreciate that that's financially how it's done.
Sure.
So I'm wondering about common space for seniors to be able to be indoors with each other and actually hang out with each other.
Yes, there's all of that in this
Perfect.
plan. Yep.
That's
All of that is in here.
Excellent.
Councillor Pryor?
And don't forget, we have the 55 just across the
Yes,
street.
exactly, yes, yeah.
Well, and with your new catering contractor, we hope he'll be very handy.
Councillor Perez, do you have another question?
No,
No.
I was just pointing.
Councillor Elliott?
Thanks for joining us at the table, Peter. I think one of the concerns that I've heard is that once these two buildings get built, the Senior Citizens Housing Society doesn't have any more land
Correct.
on which to build.
Right.
Which is, I think, is what generates the questions about have you thought about building skinnier but taller just to preserve land for the future. And so I guess the question is, in creating these plans, you think about like what next? I don't think our population is going to get smaller or younger in the short term. So what is next? What's these things?
Sure. Thank you. The thing is that as we started on this program, we realized that we could not bring forward a $40 or $45 million project on our own. We just couldn't raise the amount of equity contribution that would be required for the type of mortgage that we need for low rent. So our business plan, our pro forma requires a higher amount of equity to, even though BC Housing are going to give us a mortgage at a premium interest rate, low premium, yeah. So we did express to most of you here at City Hall early in the game that we had to get creative in how we were to approach it. We just didn't quite understand how creative we were going to get because we were talking a modest 40 unit type. That was all we could afford. And at that, we were saying we thought we were going to have to sell off the north property to build 40 units for ourselves, of which 20 would replace the Cedars and 20 would be new. So now with Polygon coming along based on their experience in Richmond, we've been able to put the numbers together in a manner that will allow us 232 units, making good use of urban space. And by building early, if you will, that's the program so that even though we're not, right now we're pretty much all subsidized. We can't do that when we open the door, as I explained earlier. So the build-in for the future is to get more and more subsidized housing. That's our mandate. And I admit that the world is running out of serviced land. And I would be happy to leave the other 2 acres vacant for that future growth if other participants in the community could help us find the extra equity. So it's always in these dilemmas. You have these trade-offs that you have to kind of keep going at yourself. And quite honestly, we believe that we have thought this one through. This is the optimum opportunity for our community at this time. And if we let it pass, it'll be quite a while, we believe, before another opportunity of equal value will be able to come forward to us. So that's kind of how we thought about it. Now, we'll go back to our architects and so on. Can you cram this on less land, go higher maybe, whatever, and leave some room for expansion, a new wing or something. But right now, I think we've got a pretty big building there, actually. Yeah.
I know we're not talking about the CAC piece of this today, but in a rezoning, is it possible to do like a land swap so that land gets acquired somewhere else for future seniors housing as part of rezoning?
Absolutely.
So, sorry, maybe just to explain that to me?
They're asking for a rezoning on where the current seniors and manors
Right.
is, which will incorporate a community amending contribution on the
Sure.
developer's point of view. What Councillor Elliott was asking is part of that CAC negotiation, we can talk about acquiring other lands for seniors housing purposes in the future. I think the general challenge is that we're getting great short-term gain, 232 units, with zero long-term potential for seniors housing because we don't have any more land for it. This whole parcel was gifted by the municipality to the society to create seniors housing. So we're losing a big chunk of potential land to get lots of units today. And that's we're trying to determine, that's the debate, is the short-term gain worth the long-term pain in this camp? And that's the debate in our minds.
And all I would say in response, because look, I'm a guy that supports as much as you can get, okay? Senior housing, land, whatever you want. But at the end of the day, we have a building that we have to pay for. And a great deal of that is coming from the proposal that's been put forward by Polygon. So this CAC that has recently been put on the table adds numbers to that. And look, it's your discretion, your
CAC is
power
not
to
a
do whatever you
recent-
want.
A recent policy, Peter.
But even if you use the money to buy land somewhere else, it's money that can't go in to our project. That's all I would say. So we have to look at this carefully to see how they add up and subtract, but make sure at the end of the day that the program works so that we can get ourselves the 232 units that are proposed.
So I'm going to stop you there, Peter, because what's in front of us is not selling away CACs. That conversation's never come up.
Okay.
That's a completely separate deal once that's part of the rezoning application. Is that my understanding? That the CACs is not part of this deal with the Seniors Housing Society and
No.
Polygon?
We're not there yet.
Okay. I just was confused.
Yeah, no, I
because
understand.
That's not,
and I apologize.
no offense, but you don't have the opportunity to negotiate away our CAC.
And I don't want to.
Okay.
All I have to defend is the ability for us to keep enough equity in the project so we can afford the mortgage that's been put forward by BC Housing. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, which is fair market value for the land, which is what you get,
Well,
according
plus
to the
their
report. Maybe
contribution.
there's-
However, the total, and plus our own money in the bank, all these things, the total equity has to, at the end of the day, equal an amount that we can afford the mortgage. That's all we're saying. And so for, we're at that point where we want to get going. Okay.
Councilor Craig.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, we can use CAC money to buy property. So when we talk about seniors housing, this is under market value, right? This is a percentage of your income housing
Yes.
kind of thing. And the first board I ever sat on 20 years ago was that seniors committee that Pete's on. That was my first little committee. And I really admired that group that started this whole thing way back when. So 250 or 70 units,
232.
232 units of housing that we really need. But let's say the Maine down here is building their building and they're going 6 stories. What's to say one whole floor that's not seniors? I mean, all seniors don't have to get into assisted living, or not assisted living, but supported living. Lots of people when they retire and they think, I need to be in an apartment because I can't manage my house anymore. They don't have to go into an assisted living situation.
Maybe we should just go over the terminology, because there's 50%, maybe go back to that slide, 50% is subsidized,
Yes?
50% is below market.
Yeah.
As it's looking.
Independent living, correct? There's no subsidized,
Well, other than the.
no assisted, this is independent living.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, Councilor Craig.
Yeah, but if
Those
your
subsidies
pension's X,
You get a financial subsidy, but there's no service.
yeah, I'm just talking about the cash.
Okay.
So, but when we're going, we're gonna use up all our stock for seniors housing, what's to stop me as a senior in buying the top floor down at the Main? And I'm a senior and I'm living in the Main 6-story building and it's, this is a place where you live where the government subsidizes a little bit, and if you don't have enough pension, you can still get a place to live. That's what this building is. So if I have $1 million in the bank, I won't be able to get in there because my income is too high to get in there. So it is for a specific group of people in the community that we need. We really need that. So, but when we're talking about seniors housing, we got 250 units, 238 units. I'm just saying that a lot of seniors don't need this. They can move into the one next to it. They can buy a townhome next door to it and be a senior. This isn't the only type of living that the seniors is gonna have. You know,
Yeah.
so I'm not so much worried about, you know, the building on the other half can have seniors living in that too. They just have to have money. So,
Maybe a question, I don't know if Laura or Peter can answer it. Is this gonna build 232 units and it's only 162 additional units because we're replacing 70 existing units? Is that fully prescribed? Would that be filled tomorrow?
Yes. When we last talked to individual counselors in the summer, our waiting list was at 115. It's now 145 and growing. Every week it grows by 2, 3. And so we have no hesitation in saying it will be full on the day that it's built.
And so the day that it's built, it's full. What's the next step for future housing?
We work collaboratively with the community to plan it, but this is the first new capital project we've had in 40 years. So you have to give us a little time to get into our new building, and then we'll be back and we'll be working hard to help you.
Councillor Stoll.
Yeah, I share council's concerns about the future if the building's gonna be full, and I know the waiting lists for supportive housing have been immense, and I wonder, to Councillor Carr's point, about increasing the density. I get that it's stick frame or you're going concrete, but if you can actually have 2 more floors of market housing that could eventually be converted to seniors housing, like added to that, it would raise your income. You could be able to lease them out at the regular rate, contribute to your mortgage, and have a sturdier building that's not all wood frame. So I wonder if that was considered in the proposal, because I get the land trade and I get, you know, but I don't see the density being there if it only fulfills today's waiting list. Because our community, you know, that is our future demographic that's going to need, they're going to have spent all their money on their housing now and their taxes, and then need to move into supportive housing, or maybe they just sell off and buy a nice condo in the main, as Councillor Carr said, but maybe they want to live in a seniors community because they want the community aspect as they get older or lose their spouse, want to live in a seniors building but can afford market rates. I guess the other building is an option, or like how is it, you can't add density in order to afford the mortgage in a BC housing building, is that correct? Or like, is there a way to mix up the BC housing model with a full market housing model?
I don't know that that's necessarily the sole issue. We can go back and talk to them about it. I think they've got an open mind, but it's all, again, how we have to take the responsibility for raising the total number of funds to build a building and have enough guaranteed income equity there to end up with a mortgage that we can afford. And we're open to ideas, but you know, there's a limit to our capacity as a nonprofit. And again, I think that what we put before you is a very substantial project. And I think Squamish can be really happy that we've gone as far as we have with 232 units. And yeah, other innovative ideas will have to come forward. We've heard 2 or 3 of them today at this table to build more housing going forward into the future. And so I'm sure that it will get done too.
How many affordable units are in the other building?
Well, all these terms get put around, but subsidized units, pretty much all of them are at a subsidized level. That means that people's income is such.
No, in the traded building, where we're just sticking to
The new building?
The old ones.
I'm sorry, the new building?
the building that.
Oh.
The rezoning building? It's a rezoning building, and that might,
But
that's
do I-
not a question for Peter, so.
Right,
Oh.
Yeah.
that's for staff.
That's community management contribution is still being negotiated, so we will
That's
come
a
back
community
once,
amenity, it's.
once we know.
the requirement.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilor Crowell?
Yeah, I just, you know, I know the society has worked hard on this. And when I was on that board, all those years ago, this was being worked on. So I know how much work's gone into it. When we build our homeless shelter, which is coming, thanks to the community and volunteers and BC Housing, we're gonna have 46 units. They're gonna be full the month that that's open. First month, they're gonna be full, same as this place. And, you know, I just want us to realize that. I mean, I don't wanna overthink this and,
We're just asking questions.
yeah, no, I know, I'm just saying, but I just don't, you know, when we go, it's gonna be full right away, well, then what? Well, the big step that we've done and the big move we've done in the homeless shelter, it'll most likely be the same thing, and so yes, we all have to work together and find more housing and more locations, but I just know how long this has been coming, and I do know the need for it. I've got quite a few friends that are living in the old one. Oh, the point I was gonna get at is the old buildings. I think if the building inspector went through there, they'd probably say, you better tear these down pretty quick. Because they're just
They're under-
2x4 frame, no insulation, scary kind of buildings, so.
Please don't send them.
We know the buildings are at their end of life, and that's one of the real impetuses behind this conversation. I guess what council has to get the brain around is this chunk of land in Lot R was dedicated to seniors housing. And what we're contemplating now is taking off seniors housing from a very significant portion of land. And there has to be a huge upside to that, because we're getting short-term gain for basically no land in the future as it's currently. So that's what the deliberation we're going on in our head. And it might well be that that is of great value.
Yeah.
What is, the report references a number of times the fair market value. Have we determined what that is?
We want to make sure we've got a program to go forward with, and then we'll engage the appraisers and so on.
Thank you. Yeah, and I, to be frank, don't think that's any of our business. I think that's between the Seniors Housing Society and the developer, and they can work out their deal. For us, it's land use decisions, and I think I take the mayor's point. You know, what this project calls for is us giving up a portion of land or rezoning a portion of land that was previously eyed for seniors housing. That's correct, but I think it's wrong to suggest that's the end of it for seniors housing in Squamish, because I think we have other possibilities, particularly when there's development pressure in a community like this. It opens up all kinds of possibilities, in my mind, for other forms of senior housing, and other locations for senior housing. So I don't think it's the end of it. I think we can look at this deal and decide whether or not it makes sense. But I think we and future councils can know that there's always going to be opportunities to acquire, in one form or another, land which would be suitable for seniors housing in the future. And I think we just have to have faith in that when we're evaluating this. This is not it forever.
And it does put it into a competitive situation with a whole bunch of other community priorities as we
No question.
work through redevelopment applications.
Thanks. You know, I don't disagree with trading land for getting projects done. But when you're talking about seniors housing, you can't just look at the community and go, oh, we can put it anywhere. Walkable, flat, and accessible to groceries and amenities is downtown. And we have designated big lots of land in this little area to be, for the future, for our senior citizens on an area that they don't need a car. I'm comfortable with the parking leniency because they have shopping and because they can walk everywhere. And I'm trying to wrap my head around the fact that we don't have endless tracts of land. We don't have a lot of land in the downtown. It's basically all privately owned, built on. We can trade units, but that's my dilemma, is that you look at other areas and you're putting in parking, you're putting in resources, it's not our land. So we're always trading and making amenities. Here we have a large amount of seniors' land that we're gonna have to give up half of it in order to get this project built. And that's basically how we have to get this project built, is by trading land so that this is built. But that's, to know that it's gonna be full when it opens, and then that you don't have any more land is a really distressing thought for communities. So the other project, I wonder about the density there and how, I can't look at these projects in isolation. I have to say that I'd be willing to give density bonusing if we could get more community amenity contributions, and I know that's not a conversation, we're not supposed to have that conversation, but I can't look at this and think it's gonna be full and give up flat, walkable, easy land for seniors that we will need the very next day. So the other project would have to have some sort of, we'd have to have some impact on that to add more density for affordable housing in the other project. Or the other thing is, I think about Castle Rock all the time as well. It's like, can we designate that land in the future for seniors housing? I wish that we could think about more.
Too big a conversation, but.
Yeah, I know that. Well, it's a pretty large conversation when you're talking about giving up your senior citizens. I think that's a huge conversation.
Councillor Craig and Councillor.
Well, it's not our land, it's their land.
Yeah.
It was gifted
That was
to
gifted
from the,
That's
for
right.
this purpose.
I was on the board, I remember
for the
that.
purpose of seniors housing.
That's right.
Yeah.
The priority is getting some affordable seniors housing. So let's take, I'll go to the main, it's downtown, it's flat, it's accessible to shopping. And let's say, why don't we say, well, let's make one floor of that seniors housing. And then there's a floor in that building of seniors housing. And how do we do that? Well, they have a density of 100 and they want to build 300. So we'll say, well, we want 100 of those in seniors. I mean, to me, there's lots of ways of getting seniors. This is the way to finance a group that's got land and no money to build it. If we want to say, no, we'll come up with the money to build that, don't give the land away, then yes, but where's the engine that's going to drive this? Us saying no. I mean, I just think that I'm a senior next year, and I want to live in an apartment downtown. It'll be considered a senior's apartment. And if you look at everybody in this room, I guarantee you, well, I can't guarantee you, but most likely all of our incomes are too high to even get in that place. Right? That's where people have small.
We made that point already, and we understand
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
this
So
is subsidized.
the engine to build this, if we want this, is to do the land exchange. And if we want more seniors housing, there's a person proposing an 8-story, let's make the 8th floor seniors housing. I'll move in there.
That's really,
Okay, this is for staff on a different topic. So for this DP, does our active transportation separated bike lanes go all the way up to Bailey, or does it end at Cheverton? Anybody know?
I believe they go all the way up to Bailey, but I'd have to confirm.
I'm pretty sure.
I think go to Bailey.
Yeah, so my one question is, because that's our active transportation route, the more driveways we have along there, the more challenging it can be to put in separated bike lanes. I'm wondering if there's any way with that front entrance, and I think there's entrances to parking garages, but if there's a way to configure it so there's just one in and out?
Absolutely, and as Jesse mentioned, we will be doing an internal referral after this meeting
Okay.
to our engineering staff, who will surely provide those same comments to us.
this hasn't gone to ADP.
No.
Any more questions for staff? I'll go to the public in a minute. Any more questions for staff? Mr. Day, you can take the podium there.
Thank you. Afternoon, everyone. I have absolutely zero to do with this application.
Wait, hold on a second.
Oh.
Kelsey, what's wrong?
No, can't hear.
Don't touch the mic.
Name and address.
No, you don't have
Sit
to
down
do
there
that.
and sit.
No fixed
Doesn't, no, I
address.
think we're okay.
Oh,
He
okay.
doesn't want you to touch the microphone.
Okay, I won't touch it. Doug Day, let's call it 1400 Vancouver Street, Squamish. I don't have anything to do with this application, but I've been aware of it for about a year. These people have gone through a tremendous amount of work, as near as I can tell, and without trying to be too hard, and it gives me a headache listening to you all. It gives me a serious headache.
Pete, there's a door.
Yeah, I don't know why I wandered in here. But this fine group is offering 232 retirement, what do you call it? Seniors housing, first that's been done in 40 years. And you're worried about, well, that's not good enough because we've got to get any more. Well, you're wrong, Councillor Chappelle. This whole downtown is a development site. There's almost not a single building downtown that's worthy of saving. It's just a bunch of junk from Loggers Lane all the way to 7th. Every single square inch of that space is a development site, including the whole square block that I own at 1400 Vancouver Street. Maybe I'll build some seniors housing. There's no law that says I have to build condos. So every deal that comes along is a potential site for upzone the next site that comes along. They want to build condos. Say, well, look, put a floor in for seniors housing, like I think Councillor Pryor was suggesting. Anyway, I think you got to. My advice to you is grab this deal while it's there. You've got the BC government or the Canadian government or whatever committed to providing mortgage on the thing. Got probably the finest development company in British Columbia by far, in my opinion, is driving it and helping to make this happen. Don't push them away and dick around with this thing. That's my advice to you. Thank you.
Thank you. So, from a process point of view, the rezoning has to come before the DP because it's obviously contingent on getting money for the sale of that land to pay for the project. So from a process point of view, the rezoning would come to us, back to us first for consideration?
That's correct.
And is there a timeline on that, or?
I think what we need to do is finish the negotiations or discussions on the community amendment contribution, and then we will proceed with putting the rezoning in front of council.
Okay. Councillor Schwab.
Thanks. I appreciate those comments, Mr. Day, but my problem is that every development site is a for-market housing project. Everything in downtown has to be negotiated. This is run by a senior society, which is amazing, and to be able to, it's sad that we don't have financing to actually be able to support multiple projects. And I think that's what I lament, is that we're always negotiating for little bits of things here and there, where we have a seniors housing society that has to give away half the land for just to meet today's needs. And not for tomorrow's needs, but for just to meet today's needs. And that land that they're giving away is for them to be able to run and manage more seniors housing at an affordable rate. So yes, every lot in the downtown is a development site for market that we have to negotiate 1 or 2 units in that people don't want to give to us. So, and then we don't have a way to manage it because we have to pay for management. And the management long-term of this unit is expensive. So you have to lower the density, trade land, and do all these things just to meet today's needs. And then I wonder, this community's not going to get cheaper. How do we deal with future needs? And that is a conversation when you're giving away land that, yes, this deal has to happen. I don't disagree with that. And you guys have worked really hard on this. But to think about future needs of our community and long-term needs of our senior citizens is a responsibility of council. And without having more land to think about, I have trouble just hoping for something in the future. So those are my concerns, and I don't disagree with this has to go forward
Well,
for
we
today's.
haven't gotten to rezoning yet, so obviously there's lots for council to consider. But at this point, I think it's worthwhile considering. So, I'll suggest that we receive the report. You've heard some feedback, and the proponents and their partners and staff can go away and deliberate on that. But maybe I'll entertain a motion to receive the report, and then the process will move along as legislated. Moved by Councillor Ray, second by Councillor Pryor.
This is on the development permit. I'll speak briefly on that. And just listening to the comments of my fellow councillors, I suppose you could take that site and somehow put more density on it. As we've heard, there are a number of problems with that. You could compress those courtyard areas in front and back and so forth. There's also a quality of living space issue, which really wasn't mentioned, which when I first saw this, I think those courtyard spaces, the garden out the back, you actually don't see in that picture, but which would, if you tried to put more density on the site, would inevitably have something else on it. It might even be just parking to allow the number of units you're talking about. This is what's been applied for. I think this is what we should be considering. Not something else that might be out there for somebody if they have more money. So I think this is the project that we have to consider, and this is the project that will go ahead.
Councillor Pryor?
Yeah, thanks. I'm just to Councillor Race's comments there. I was only thinking of going up, I mean, the exact same footprint with 2 more floors. When I was considering higher density, I wasn't thinking. I really do like the courtyard, and you can see all the little gardens in there. And, it's a nice layout. It'll fit in the neighborhood.
Okay, well, the DP's going to come forward,
Yeah.
so we don't have to get too far down the road there. I had a question, I know I've forgotten it. Oh yeah, now the report said that the average size of the unit is 1,000 square feet?
No,
No? Okay.
about 600.
Rezoned.
One-bedroom units, yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense to me. I thought 1,000 is large for...
That'd be nice, but no.
Yeah. Well, my house is small.
Here's mine.
Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks. I'll entertain a motion to close. Moved by Councillor Pryor, seconded by...
Are you looking at rezoning?
Well, that was part of the whole discussion.
Well, the report?
The report was on both, and the motion is just to receive the report. I think that we're going to have to decide on the rezoning fundamentally. If the rezoning doesn't go forward, DP doesn't go forward.
Well, no, I get that part.
And the rezoning's coming back.
What we had in the report, we had a whole section on massing, for example. We've had pre-bylaw discussions on massing with other developments. That's what I thought was on the
Did you want to
agenda.
speak to Matt?
I didn't want to speak to it. I wanted to get a presentation on it.
Was there more to present? I thought the
That was
report,
it?
No, that was it.
that was it.
Oh, okay.
I think it's,
In
the
terms-
rezoning's going to come back, and
Okay.
then the actual massing would be more dealt with in the DP anyway, not in the rezoning. So the
Yes.
DP for the rezoning site, not the DP.
Yes, we would deal with massing in a way at the rezoning stage as well with setbacks and
Yeah,
height and all that.
okay.
Okay.
Motion to close, moved by Councillor Pryor, seconded by, I'll second that. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.